The Secrets of Star Wars is brought to you by the StarQuest Production Network and is made possible by our many generous patrons. If you'd like to support the podcast, please visit sqpn.com/give.
Hi, this is Vanessa Marshall. I play Hera Syndulla on Star Wars Rebels, and you're listening to the Secrets of Star Wars podcast. May the Force be with you always.
Hello there.
It's a power that Jedi have that lets them control people and make things float.
Impressive. Every word in that sentence was wrong.
Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi. You're my only hope.
This station is now the ultimate power in the universe.
I find your lack of faith disturbing.
It's against my programming to impersonate a deity.
That's not how the Force works.
Force is with me, and I am with the Force, and I fear nothing.
Remember, the Force will be with you, always.
You're listening to The Secrets of Star Wars, where we talk about everything connected to that galaxy far, far away. From movies, books, TV shows, and more, we're looking at the deeper themes and meanings found in the Star Wars universe. And this week we are again discussing Tales of the Underworld, but this time it's Cad Bane. Be sure to follow The Secrets of Star Wars on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcast app, or on the StarQuest YouTube channel. You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/StarQuestMedia, on X, where we are at SQPN, or on Instagram, where we are at StarQuest Network. And of course, be sure to get your official Secrets of Star Wars gear at SQPN.com/merch. I'm your host, Thomas Salerno, and joining me tonight on the panel is Pat Mason. Hello, Pat.
Howdy, Thomas.
Hey, and returning is old Ben himself, Mike Creavey. Hey there, Mike.
You know, to keep up with my fake name here, I've been lost out in the desert, mysteriously. You know, I think I made one appearance after Acolyte for something, but so everyone knows, I've not been around for a while, but I'm really happy to be here tonight.
That wizard's just a crazy old man. No, glad to have you, Mike. This is gonna be an awesome discussion. Cad Bane. I just got to start off by saying, okay, I didn't watch a lot of Clone Wars back in the day. So Cad Bane wasn't really a character who was on my radar or that I really cared about until Book of Boba Fett, when he was kind of like a, antagonist character. I'm like, oh, cool. But I actually really liked this story arc of Tales of the Underworld, giving almost reintroducing the character for us. But I want to get your guys' thoughts too, in general. But before that, Mike, you have actually some interesting info that you found on the creation of this character, because I'd like to know more about that, given that, like I said, he really wasn't on my radar scope until much later.
Yeah, well, it's funny because I've shared before, probably years ago now on the show, but just to recap quick, I missed all of Clone Wars, its initial run. It wasn't on my radar, and I didn't really have access to it. And then, I think it was when Clone Wars was available for a while on Netflix. I really started doing a dive into that. So that was I want to say 2018, 2019, somewhere in there, right before Mandalorian came out. So I kind of binged it then, and then I just of course I came across so many characters through that, but his character, I just always, I don't know, I thought he was such a good villain. And I just always found him interesting, and his voice, something about his voice sounded familiar and I couldn't ever place it. And then just recently, I was reminded here of just some YouTube searches and stuff, but Corey Burton, right, who does his voice and who does so many voices.
Yep.
He just basically said that the story he shared was that they came up with this character for Clone Wars, and the idea was he's basically based on Lee Van Cleef's Angel Eyes character from The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. With that big wide brim black hat.
Okay.
And it was so, but he said it was neat because it was still in the days of it's a Lucas and Filoni kind of character, right? So it still has that kind of origin from official George Lucas kind of era.
Yeah, I even heard that George Lucas named the character.
Oh, is that right?
I heard
I
that
don't
somewhere.
know about that, but that sounds something like he would do. But this idea of this spaghetti western, Leone kind of like, Clint Eastwood era villain. And they had that idea and everyone loved it and everything, like the sort of like some of those original Star Wars beats, from like spaghetti westerns with the sort of like grungy kind of like, Old West kind of look. So they had that all lined up, and I didn't know this till recently. They hired Lance Henriksen to voice him. And anyone, from like the 80s, right, you think of like Lance Henriksen as like this very creepy villainous. If you don't know who he is, you Google him, you'll know as soon as you see him. Like, oh yeah, Bishop from Aliens, or like,
okay,
and all these, like he was in Terminator. He's one of the cops in Terminator. Like he's in all these movies from the 80s and 90s. But as great as he was, it just something wasn't clicking for George. And Corey Burton says that George Lucas was apparently, he didn't know Corey Burton at the time, but for some bizarre reason, he was like, I like it, but like, could we get like Corey Burton to do Cad Bane as like kind of Peter Lorre? And, Peter Lorre, again, like an older actor. I mean, some people now may not be familiar with him, but Peter Lorre was a Hungarian actor whose first role was a movie M, just the letter M, in like Weimar Republic, Germany, where he played a serial killer who was hunting like and killing young girls. And like those movies weren't being made in like 1931. And I never saw that movie, but I've seen him. Like he was in, I brought it up here. He's in like Casablanca, The Man Who Knew Too Much, Crime and Punishment, Maltese Falcon, like all these movies like the Bogart era. And I know him from Arsenic and Old Lace, if you ever saw that with Cary Grant, which is a great movie. Yeah. But long story short, he's just this creepy, and he kind of has these voices. It's like this weird kind of like Hungarian, like creepy guy. And Corey Burton like takes that beat from George Lucas and he's like, okay, well, let me do that. Like, who can do that but Corey Burton? And so for like, long story short, I just thought like if you want to like, so if you go and like go on YouTube, it's Lorre, Peter Lorre. It's spelled Lorre. And if you just watch a couple clips, some scenes of Peter Lorre, you'll instantly hear like the seeds of Cad Bane's voice in that. And for some reason, it's like creepy. It has this sort of European kind of like nuance to it, like something a little alien. And it was just like, now, I mean, you can't imagine that character without that voice. And so that was just, anyway, that was maybe a little longer than I intended there, but I thought that was so funny. Like, what a bizarre set of like things to bring together for this character. Yeah.
I definitely see the Lee Van Cleef though. Now that you mentioned
and the look. Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. It almost like, and I guess when I first saw the design of the character, I was like, I know Star Wars is inspired by Westerns, but that's even like a little I'm like hitting it a little bit on the nose or no nose in the case of Cad Bane.
Exactly.
But what'd you guys think of this arc overall before we get too much into the individual episodes? I liked it a lot. Like, except no, wait, I was going to mention something, but I'll get into it later when we get into specifics. But how about you, Pat? What'd you think of this arc, both by itself and maybe in comparison to the last arc we had, the Asajj Ventress one?
Right. So I think it's really well done how they've done these Tales of shows, because one is an uplifting story and the other one is a falling story, right? So we have Ahsoka, kind of coming of age and coming into her own versus Dooku falling from grace. Although I think he was still not terribly wrong. It just ended poorly. And then we have the Tales of the Empire, where you have, the one, former Jedi hunter becoming a Jedi, a sister, and the other with Morgan and her sort of beginnings as becoming a real person of the Empire. And then you have this one where you have, Asajj Ventress, who is, evil of the evil, right? Coming into a place of friendship. And then you have the other side of this, which is Cad Bane, sort of his humble beginnings and showing simultaneously both how he went wrong and his friend went right, even though they both came from the same spot. So I really loved kind of the double juxtaposition they had with this story, showing both, how him and his best friend, from the beginnings, from their street rat origins, hanging out with Abu and Aladdin on the streets of Agrabah. One becomes the perfect amalgam of Western gangster, renegade, outlaw, and the other one becomes, the sheriff marshal, figure. I've always enjoyed Westerns. I've always enjoyed gangster movies. I think it's actually a difficult thing to blend them because they don't necessarily lend themselves to the same kind of stories. There's only like 4 stories total in all storytelling, but it's the window dressing is so much different between the two. But I actually think they do a very good job through the course of these episodes of showcasing how both are kind of at play here.
Well, that's the genius of Star Wars. Somehow it manages to take like every aesthetic or like kind of setting or story you can imagine, mix them all together, and somehow it all works.
Somehow you can make a pirate show.
Yeah, like a legit pirate show, or you can make an espionage thriller, or you can make anything with Star Wars. That's like the genius of it.
I'm still waiting for the Hondo Anaka live action where I like stand on my seat in the theater, I said this was finally. Like, just give me that.
Absolutely. Well, what about you, Mike? What'd you think of the story arc as a whole?
Well, I can't. It's just like you just have to take my word for this. But like Pat, like literally, as you mentioned, Aladdin, I had a tab open because I just had one last thought about the Peter Lorre connection. Mm-hmm. And oddly enough, in Aladdin, when Genie is doing the weird impressions, like the original Aladdin animated movie, when he's like saying the things he can't do as a genie, he says, "I can't bring anyone back from the dead." Yeah, like that's a Peter Lorre impression Robin Williams is doing.
I'm doing it. It's not a pretty picture.
It's not a pretty picture. So that like bizarre. But anyway, I think I will summarize just with like just a quick mention of like the music, for example, because now I didn't look it up. Was it Kevin Kiner? I'm assuming it was Kevin Kiner.
I don't know. It's a good question.
Did the music? I should look that up too.
I thought
it usually is with these, but I wouldn't be surprised. But one thing I noticed on the second watch was you have that like obvious like Ennio Morricone, like Good, Bad, the Ugly kind of Western, like the Mexican sort of like the trumpet and like like the flamenco guitar and all this kind of stuff, but the saxophone, like the synth kind of sax, felt more like like gangster, like film noir, or like a cyberpunk almost. It was bizarre how that worked, and I was just like, I made a note of that. I was like, that is like really like, how do you do? Who thinks of that?
Yeah, really great music.
Yeah,
in this one, it stood out and it set the mood definitely for the whole thing.
Yeah, Kevin Kiner. Yeah.
Okay, he's great.
Not surprising.
Nope, not surprising at all. But yeah, so we have as usual 3 short episodes for this arc called they all, I like this, they all center around the word good, which is funny because this is about a bad guy. So we've got The Good Life, A Good Turn, and One Good Deed. So we'll start with The Good Life. Brief synopsis here. Orphans Colby and Nero eke out an existence in the crime-ridden streets of Duro by petty theft. A gangster named Laszlo recruits them for a high-stakes heist, but when the job goes sideways, Colby abandons Nero to the authorities and escapes with Laszlo and the crew. Okay, so we've already touched a bit on, this the both the gangster movie aspect and the westerns aspect. I kept thinking, like this is like it's some weird amalgamation of Dodge City and Al Capone Chicago.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
I am glad we finally see Duro as a planet because the Duros, I remember at least in Legends, were a very prominent race in the Star Wars galaxy, one of the early spacefaring races alongside humans. So I'm glad we finally got to see their planet. And I like that we keep returning to that one neighborhood and see how it changes over the different episodes. In this one, it's all kind of, a bit of a seedy neighbor. Reminds me of some neighborhoods in Manhattan I've seen where it's like, you don't really want to be walking there or standing there for too long. I liked the idea of the good life that they explore in this, and like different what is the good life, especially as Colby, who is of course will grow up to be Cad Bane, but how Colby sees it, and he kind of gets it from this other gangster character, Laszlo. But before I get too far into Laszlo, was anybody else thinking of Last Crusade? Because I was. With the hat. Yeah. And I know this is kind of next episode, but, he inherits the hat from the older guy, and I'm like, you've got to be
lost today, kid.
Yeah.
But you don't have to like it.
I'm like, oh, this is Last Crusade. Come on. But I was like, okay, fine, whatever. But, like, yeah, I liked this introduction of this character. I'm like, well, I know that's not Cad Bane, because he doesn't really look like him apart from the hat, But I like that he kind of introduces these two young people to this idea of like, oh, the good life is basically what you can take for yourself, essentially. And he's definitely a utilitarian type of character because he calls them an investment.
Right.
I just remembered this. He's kind of standing there on the street corner watching them do their sort of routine where they sort of swindle people. And he gives them enough coin to get... I thought that stuff was Mantel mix at first, but it's not because they're not on Ord Mantell. But they basically get a whole lot of candy and then get sick.
Unfortunately, Crunchies is what we've referred to dog food as for like 20 years in our family.
Yeah, they call it Crunchies.
Crunchies. And I was like, come on. Like, you guys couldn't
Crunchies.
Give it something spacey.
Yeah.
Crunchies. Like, all right.
Yeah, there's a store in Disney Springs called, I think it's Goofy's Candy Shop, which is like very similar to what they went into with those dispensers. There's like a whole wall of nothing but those things. Whenever we go there, the kids are like, you get one bag. One
bag, yeah. And man, what a sleazy neighborhood to have a candy shop be a front for some kind of like gambling operation or whatever it was.
Well, and I like how it's funny. Like the name is, the good life, right? And it's usually, and all of these are part of a larger phrase typically. And it's not just, it's either give me the good life or show me the good life normally. And this is all about show me the good life, right? We're presented with them at the very beginning when they're these street urchins, right? And they're the, nicer family is not going to let their child, ask questions of these because he's trying to figure out, why are you guys digging in the trash? And
oh, that reminded me of that scene from the SpongeBob SquarePants where it's like, don't get too close, honey, you'll catch it stupid. I'm sorry, I'm like another generation with the Simpsons. I have a SpongeBob quote for like any occasion, but sorry.
Brilliant.
Yeah. So, but then they go on and they look at all the stuff that they can't have. And that's constantly what they're doing, is going to the trash cans and then going to look in the windows. These are the things we can't afford. And then, lo and behold, the savior comes along and presents them with a way to get what they want. And you get an inkling of the whole gambling thing going on in the background. And it all becomes extremely money centric, right? With the end of the episode closing with this, fade shot of all this money in who is going to become Cad Bane's hands. And I just think it's interesting that they did a very good job with using the phraseology to sort of frame and encapsulate the episode. So you have this see the good life and the other piece of it, like, if your friend doesn't get it, then you get more, kind of a part of it.
Right, almost an all or nothing kind of thing. Yeah.
It's so interesting because I was trying to find that I had to double check the reference. T.S. Eliot and East Coker, that line in my beginning is my end. This and other ways of looking at that, like the trajectory, because here, like they get means, and they're buying candy. Like, they're hungry kids buying candy. And it's like what could be more like innocent, right, than that? And I couldn't help but think, and I went back and I didn't watch huge, big Cad Bane arcs, but I a couple highlights that hit me then in the wake of it. I wanted to go see again. You know, a couple decades later, he's willing to, you know, kidnap. He shoots. Oh my gosh, he shoots Hunter and kidnaps, you know, Omega.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he shoots Cobb Vanth and warns him. You know, this, you know, Tatooine belongs to the Syndicate, the Pikes. Like to get to that, and how we all ask that in the moral life, right? Like, how did that person become like that? How did that villain? How did Hitler become? Like, you go down the list. It's like it all starts with some kid, some teen, just one, you know, like one point of no return, you know, that you've passed, and you keep going, you know. And I never thought I'd quote a Darius Rucker song in a Secrets of Star Wars podcast. But they had a song years ago where it's a great line. Something, I think the title of the song is something like, I've done a lot of things I'd never do. And what a brilliant line, right? Like, I'd never do that. Well, except for the grace of God, there go I.
There go I.
Right? Same notion.
And you see that
I think a
because
lot of that's bound up with him.
Yeah, because you see, you know, Colby, like you said, Pat, Colby and Nero start out in the same place, but their choices end up diverging farther and farther apart. You know, it's funny, jumping a bit to the end of this first episode, I thought that when Nero got caught by the authorities, that Bane would return and Nero would be a rival gangster. Mm-hmm. I was very surprised to see him as a cop.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, you know, it scared him straight. I guess he learned his lesson, you know, like, whereas, you know, if their roles had been reversed, if Colby had gotten caught,
it makes you wonder,
and Nero went with Laszlo. But we also saw Nero was a bit reluctant to get in on the whole scheme.
I love that line. Yeah. He says it's not worth it. And Colby goes, "You're right." And then he turns around and goes, "We'll do it for 10." Mm-hmm. You know, it's like, so like even there, it's like, you know, there's some difference between them. You know, that Nero has a line and Colby doesn't seem to have a line.
And another difference between them is that Nero seems to be more interested in family, because he asks Colby, you know, do you ever miss your parents? And as we know in later episode, he'll be a more family-oriented figure. But Colby's like, no, I never knew him. Why should I miss him? You know, and that theme of family runs through these, you know, and even at the end of this episode, when Colby goes off with Laszlo and the other of the crew, he's like, welcome to the family. So it's like, you know, a kid who never had a family, I guess his only family really was Nero, finds this other, it's like the evil version of like the rebels found family, you know, like... Yeah.
Well, and you know, that speaks a lot to the concept of, you know, mentorship, right? Mm-hmm. Because you have to assume, you know, Colby's been taken under the wing of this gangster, and then, you know, his friend probably was taken under the wing by, you know, one of the deputies or possibly the marshal himself, who realized this is a street urchin, and if I just let him go, then he's gonna end up, you know, I'm gonna end up shooting him one day, right? He's going to end up at the end of a blaster barrel. So I'm going to put some work into this kid and make him better. I'm reading that into that, but people don't end up where they are just because, right? All of us have had mentors or people that have shaped us, and the way we turn out is not necessarily due just to that, right? Our choices matter, what we do matters, but it has a great amount of influence, right? And I think that's so very important when Christ says, you know, woe to you who make the little ones fall, or who cause the little ones to stumble, you know, because like, that's what he's saying. Like, if you're the reason that somebody else starts down one of these dark paths, it's not going to go well for you.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny because, you know, Star Wars is no stranger to father-son stories, you know, and people think immediately like Luke and Vader, but it's, you know, you've got Kylo Ren and Han, Kylo Ren and Snoke, Mando, the child, Grogu, like, you know, all these, and quite frankly, the father and the son in that bizarre, you know, Mortis arc. I think like it's all over the place. But I was thinking about, again, you said, Thomas, about the utilitarian thing. again, that, welcome to the family. Like this family, again, is completely, if you can keep up, if you can do what we need you to do, you're part of it. But there's no willingness to sacrifice. There's no willingness to, really genuinely put Colby's best interests forward. Like,
right, it's not a real family.
Right,
yeah.
Right. He's not like, we got to get you in school, kid. Like, no, it's like he needs people who can fit in small places and,
like, small hands, so can slice up things.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He's seen Colby has quick hands when they fleeced that droid out of all his food. So he basically uses the two kids to distract the guy who's running the behind the scenes gambling thing, so that they can burst through the front door and shoot the place up.
Yeah,
basically. And he honestly, if neither Nero or Colby had made it, he wouldn't have batted an eye.
Well, it's funny, you could do a whole episode just on like Cad Bane and father figures, because it's interesting, because of course later, he's sort of like this quasi father figure to Boba, right? Like in the wake of Jango's death, and how that all resolves, right? Like in the Book of Boba Fett stuff is really interesting, so you don't have Boba Fett so much like being willing to like, take on, like have this real like, dedication to him or anything. Like he's like, no,
yeah,
I'm not going that path. Yeah.
I do. His appearance in the Book of Boba Fett is great, if only because it elicited probably some of the best Boba Fett lines, like one-liners ever.
Right.
Like negotiations are terminated. And I'm like, that's just great. Anyway, but yeah, and anything else to say about this one before we head on to the middle part of the arc? Am I missing anything?
I just honestly, I think like we're in you get the vibe of like the kind of world they're coming from is basically that last line from the Book of Judges, which funny enough, I think is best summed up. I'm rewatching the Pirates movies, so like it's in my head, like when they they beat Barbossa in the first movie, and Jack's excited, he's getting treasure, and he thinks he's going back to the Black Pearl, but he doesn't know that they've sailed away. And it cuts to like them out in the little like dinghy, like out and he's just looking off sad, and Elizabeth's like, sorry, Jack, and he's like, they done what was right by them. But that whole thing, like, yeah, that's the pirate's life. They done what's right by them. But you see, like, he's sad because he thought they wouldn't. you know, like he thought maybe
they had
more
something
there, right? And they, they do. We find out, but there's always that little bit of like, I love those movies. That's a whole other thing. Like for that backstabbing kind of, but not really comfortable with it, But here you really see that whole idea of just like, are you going to be more like Nero, where, you make a decision, hopefully early on, where I'm going to commit to something outside myself, in his case, justice in the neighborhood. And
making the community better.
Yeah, and we'll get to that, because I don't want to mention too much now with that, because I love that idea of like, this is in the middle of this galaxy where all these huge things are happening, and, eventually Palpatine's plan. Okay, yeah, but like, I just want my neighborhood to be good. And that's so understandable. And I love that. That's small, and you can have these big story, meaningful stories in a very just, simple setting,
Oh yeah. That again, that's one of the genius things of Star Wars, is that it's so vast. You can just have this completely complete and emotionally fulfilling story happening completely outside the major action of the Star Wars universe. One thing I will mention is that I liked how as soon as, and I can relate to this, as soon as they got the money, they spent it.
Oh yeah.
They spent it immediately. It's like, we're getting candy. So it's like, but that's such a relatable thing, like when, we humans have, and I'm sure Duro as well, have problems with impulse control. We want something, that instant gratification, but of course they've been looking, I guess the only difference is they've been looking through those candy store windows for who knows how long trying to get that candy. But yeah.
Any race that develops marketing has impulse problems. What's your planet? There were no billboards there, and I wondered what was wrong.
Moving on, I guess, to a good turn is the middle episode. And Pat, do you know which phrase this is ripping off?
I would say
good turn.
Yeah, one good turn deserves another.
Right, one good turn deserves another. Yeah. So years
later,
that's right. Which is what we get.
Yeah.
So Colby, years after he runs off with Laszlo, Colby is now a hardened criminal and is going by the moniker Cad Bane. Laszlo is killed by the marshal on Duro, and Bane seeks revenge, accompanied by his lover, Aaron. Bane is warned off by Nero, now a deputy marshal, but events escalate as Bane kills the marshal in a standoff. Aaron is injured in the shootout and disarms Bane so that Nero can arrest him. Now, I thought as soon as Aaron appeared on screen, I went, pregnant. Because the first thing she does when she appears on screen is rub her belly in that.
Yeah, you're right.
I'm so glad you brought I didn't know when this would come up, but I'm going to be honest with you. I feel like such an absolute idiot because it never crossed my mind once until I see the kid in episode 3. And I'm like, he looks a lot like Ben. Yeah. Dude, like it reminds me, this is terrible, but I think it was an old Dimitri Martin joke where he just randomly says, I think one of the best parts about being dumb is that it makes magic way better. It's like, where did that rabbit come from?
Now, see, normally I would be like you, Mike, and it would have flown right over my head, but somehow, like, I caught it. Like, she walks in,
and this time there's like 8 things in that episode. Yeah, she's like,
she does that subtle movement. She does it twice, actually.
She says there's a lot more at stake than you realize.
That's when I was certain of it.
I was like, she's probably pregnant. And then the way she saves him, I was like, yep, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And how, like, she had, and even, like, you know, I figured, you know, they had something going on when when Laszlo says to her, you know, because Laszlo's leaving Colby behind. He's not taking him on this job. And he says to Aaron, keep an eye on him. And she's like, always. And I'm like, oh, I see. You know, like,
yeah.
Yeah. But it's, it's interesting, you know, like, he's a part of this crime family, but he's not really in yet. He's not a made man, I guess you could say, because Laszlo doesn't trust him to be on this job. Maybe because I interpreted it as like Colby really wanted to go back to his old neighborhood to see if Nero was still there.
Mm-hmm.
And Laszlo knew this and didn't want Colby to be a liability on the job.
Right.
That's how I interpreted that. But you see Laszlo, though, in the kind of surrogate, the demented surrogate father figure in this case, you know, because, you know, he treats him almost, you know, like a dad with a teenage son, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah.
You got to stay here, you know, like,
stay here. Like, I don't want to stay here. It's like, and then, you know, it's only when you become the dad, you're like, yeah, now I really understand how important it is for him to not let him go.
Right.
Like, yeah. You know, everything my dad did makes way more sense now.
Sense. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. It's it is funny because it's I love, like, you know, when he goes back and like he's looking in the way they did the whole, like, it's such a trope, but it just works and it feels right when he's looking in he looking in the window. I think at one point doesn't he see like kids similar to them like run by?
Yes.
Like the street rats and all the same kinds of things. But then he sees like the reflection come up and gives him the hug and he's, you know, talking to him. And then when he shows him the badge, I just love, it's such a, you know, like no other line would work, you know, to, ain't you fancy now? Like, it's just so, like, it's corny, you know, but like, you need
gotta be a John Wayne line.
Oh, yeah. Like,
or actually, probably more like a Clint Eastwood line.
Clint Eastwood, Lee Van Cleef or something.
Yep.
Oh, my gosh.
And all of a sudden, he has the classic Cad Bane voice.
Mm-hmm. I felt like it was just pitched a tiny bit higher, right, to give it some youth. I don't know if that's something with Corey Burton. They probably don't need to do an effect on that. I'm sure he can probably just you know, adjust it a little bit.
The register of it.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
But yeah,
that was just so good.
And it was neat seeing that, you know, he's moved on, but they both kind of moved on, but they both kind of haven't.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they want to see if they can, you know, like Nero wants to see if he can somehow repair this. You know, the classic Star Wars thing. He wants to save his friend from going down the dark. Once you start down the dark path, you know.
Well, actually, and I want to ask you guys, like, maybe, you know, because I thought this really jumped out at me, and let's see what you guys think too, for what it's worth. But, you know, like, you know, everybody, different backgrounds, people listening to this, you know, like greater or lesser degrees of suffering in life in certain areas and stuff, and there might be more tragedy than others. But I think we can all, like, whatever our story is, I'm sure all of us have had some experience, at least, of, you know, you meet up with someone, or there's some sort of recrossing of paths with someone you knew when you were young, and it's just not the same. You know, it just doesn't work anymore, or there, you know, like you can't relate anymore. And there's a tension, right? That very understandable tension. It doesn't have to be like this guy's a crime lord now. That probably wouldn't be great.
No.
But, you know, like those things that I feel like a story like this, like, I've never been on an alien planet. I've never seen a life form that looks like, it's just brilliant how Star Wars can create something, like, you know, visually that's so alien and completely otherworldly that you're just glued to it. Yeah. But meanwhile, it's like, I absolutely get this.
Yeah. No,
you know,
I
that's
was
how it felt, right?
Blessed enough to be on kind of an opposite end of that, where I crossed paths with someone from my youth who had been my friend and then had kind of betrayed me and become a bully. And years later, I ran into him online, and he's like, I knew it was him, and he's like, you know, he asked for my forgiveness.
Oh, wow.
He said,
that's
you know,
awesome.
I was a stupid kid, I should never have done that. And he's like, can you forgive me? I'm like, dude, that we were 10. It's water under the bridge, man. Like, it's like, you know, I you know, and that was such a you know, a moving encounter. You know, and it was really a blessing being able to reconcile with this person. And I'm sure that's what Nero wants in this situation, you know, to be like, you know, that's all past us. But, you know, like, he even notes that, you know, like, oh, you're going by a different name now. You know,
like, he really
he's not
doesn't
the same
seem
person.
Like, it's almost not naive, but like, the default is like, Nero doesn't know Cad Bane like we do in a weird way. You know, like, it's like the character, like, I almost felt like if you know anything about this character, you have a neat perspective on, like, I'm watching this and I know where it's going, you know, like, oh no, but it's like, yeah, but Nero doesn't. Like, he actually still has a little bit of hope that, like, I, as the viewer and the fan, like, I can't have, right, in this weird kind of fun way. But yeah,
it makes it that much more tragic because, you know, like, you know, and it makes you root for it, even though you know it's not going to work.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Well, and I want to touch on something, you know, we talk about Alien, how alien, you know, the setting is and the creatures involved, you know, stereotypical grays, right? With the red eyes, right? There's an enormous amount of expressive potential that we have in our eyes because we have, you know, pupil dilation and the way they look. You can track where they're looking, and that tells a lot in a story. You have none of that ability with these, and yet they're able to use their facial expressions, their physical gestures, to convey the same level of emotionality of what they're trying to get across. Really impressive, you know. And it's not makeup effects; it's all in the digital world. It's computer animation, and it speaks to me about how far we've come with computer animation, but. That struck me as something throughout the entire show. I was like, I understand everything that they're trying to express, and yet the eyes are just this red matte, right? It's not even, and that's usually so important when talking with, you know, a human. Like, what the eyes are doing, eyes and eyebrows tell most of the story. You don't even have to look at the mouth. Like you can tell whether someone's smiling.
Well, that's even like Jim Caviezel in The Passion, where they have one of his eyes all bruised up and shut for most of it, and he's doing it with one eye. But even that, like you can see the pupil, and you can. To
complete whiplash, my reference, as Mr. Potato Head says in Toy Story, time to meet Mr. Angry Eyes.
Yes.
All you need is the eye.
Yeah. Well, and we had a 1.5 to 2 year crash course on reading expressions without the lower half of a face. Thanks, COVID. But we all learned we could tell when someone was smiling just from how their eyes looked. I didn't need the mouth. Like we could. Oh, your eyes are crinkled in just the right way. That's a real smile.
And they were able to do that with the Duro eyes, like the way that they would squint, like. Actually, I'm going to save this for the third episode because something in the third episode, Cad Bane at a critical moment makes an expression with his eyes that communicated more than any bit of dialogue could have done in that.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, I like how when Nero goes back to the I guess precinct, station house, whatnot. He's talking.
They should have had donuts. Can we just say like
Star
Wars donuts?
Star Wars donuts.
That would have been a little detail. Would have been didn't one of them have a coffee mug?
Yeah,
or am I? I think Nero was walking with one at one point. Yeah.
But yeah, like the
which, by the way, I'm sorry. Quick side note. I just saw the new whole other thing. I just saw the new Leslie Nielsen Naked Gun movie, and I stand corrected. It was pretty much up there with the originals in my opinion. It was bizarrely hilarious. But one of the tropes of the movies, they always have coffee, like always walking around and they'll walk in a room and another officer comes out and hands them a coffee and they throw one away and take the other one. Thanks, or just throw it out the window. And but constantly having the coffee. Yeah.
I like when the marshal, because Nero is fretting about what's going to happen because he knows Cad Bane is there to get revenge on the marshal for Laszlo's death, and the marshal knows it, and Nero says he's afraid of what's going to happen, and the marshal's like, don't be afraid, be ready. Like, this guy is cool as a cucumber. This marshal guy.
It was a great line.
Yeah, it was a great line. Yeah, and then following quickly on that, still Nero's like, you don't have to kill him. And the marshal's like, that's not up to me.
Yeah.
Again, it's all about Cad Bane's choices here. What choice is he going to make? And it's in this episode that he inherits the hat. And then I was thinking of The Last Crusade.
Of Indiana Jones.
Sorry.
Why do we always need an origin story for an iconic hat? Like that's a weird trope in stuff. But anyway, that's kind of like it's Solo. It's just like
I was just gonna say, like, at least there was no attempt to be like, I'm the bane of your existence. He picked the name Cad Bane.
There's Cad Bane. I like how the marshal's like, I don't care what your name is.
Yeah, I don't care what your name is. Yeah, that was almost like a swipe at Solo. No people. Han Solo. Like, don't do that.
I was fine with it.
I was fine with it. I just like making fun of it.
I like that Han was fine with it. Yeah. Han's like, cool. Whatever. Okay, that's a cool name.
It's interesting though that Cad Bane feels the need to identify himself. You've been killed at the hands of Cad Bane. Like, it's a classic Western
you might
trope.
know me as Star-Lord.
Yeah.
Or again, like Pirates, Jack is always like, I'm Captain Jack Sparrow. But you have heard of me. It's important.
But of course, I think one of the themes in this too is just like the emptiness of this revenge that he's after. And it's interesting too, because before in the previous episode he tells Nero that he doesn't care about his parents because he never knew them, and now his kind of surrogate crime lord parent dies and he's out for revenge. It's like, in a weird way, Laszlo was giving him something he needed. like direction,
right.
I guess, or like it was just in the wrong direction.
Yeah. Well, that's almost like Vader and Palpatine. I love in I don't know if I thought of this at the time, but I rewatched Obi-Wan recently, and I thought it was so neat that like Vader's just so obsessed with tracking down Obi-Wan, and in that conversation with the Emperor at the end in the Hollow, he just basically is like just very calmly basically tells Vader like, until you can get over this obsession with your old master, like you'll never be blah blah blah. And in that moment, like he solves Anakin's lifelong struggle with like obsession of or just all these like, and it's just this like you need to learn control. You need in a weird way, like like Palpatine gets Anakin to like focus. And it's like, dude,
Yeah.
So yeah, like, but again, like what you said, Tom, like the whole idea of like, but who's the father? Like how that can be turned, obviously, in such a dreadful direction,
right?
Instead of channeled in the way it should go,
right? And because it's a microcosm of the Palpatine Anakin relationship, right? And the duel of the fates we get is who's going to be Anakin's father figure? Is it going to be Qui-Gon Jinn? Or is it going to be Palpatine? And it turns out it's Palpatine, and that's why we end up with the Vader. Theoretically, it's all possible.
Theoretically,
Anakin could have messed things up under Qui-Gon Jinn. Not gonna rob him of that, but still, it's the importance of who is your father figure, who is your mentor, the importance of father figures in general.
Right, and in a way, in this, the family comes up again because Cad Bane is turning his back on his potential family, or real family in this case. He has a girlfriend and a child now in utero, and he seemingly is too dense to be aware of that fact, but he turns it back on when Aaron disarms him. He just says traitor. The revenge, for Laszlo, for his father figure, was more important than the family he could have. Which kind of goes back to him being like, oh, I never cared about my parents. Like he keeps turning his back on family.
Yeah, and it's the one good turn deserves another, right? So you have the double revenge. Or the double killing effectively. But what really happens is that Bane goes from, in the episode, he's all about getting revenge for Laszlo. And now it's revenge against, his old friend, right?
Against Nero, yeah.
So his, purpose or drive or whatever shifts. There's no time to contemplate, what have I done? There's no time to think about, maybe this was not the right way to do things. There's no retrospective. It's, I've completed task A and suddenly I'm presented with task B and let's go on that. And so it just turns, right? So the first turn, getting revenge by killing the marshal. And now I need to avenge myself. Now that I've avenged my master. Yep.
Right. Cause Nero says to him, you've got your revenge. I hope it was worth it. And Bane's just like, it will be.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay. But to get what we were talking about earlier, Nero's Mike, you were talking about Nero's sort of mission to just make his neighborhood a better place. Is such a wholesome, a wholesome kind of very virile and manly, thing to be doing. He's
it's a lot like, sadly enough, another guy who's trying to do the same thing, who we know is not dead, but we don't know what they're going to do with him yet. But Cobb Vanth, on Tatooine, and it's like, how do you get more like completely like no one cares in the Star Wars universe? Like if you've got like the old Star Wars trio, like a customizable card game from Decipher, like mid-90s Star Wars fandom era of like, they were the same company that made like, I think it was Decipher, right, who did the I think they did the Magic the Gathering, or they were involved in that, but like that era. Yep. And my friends and I collected those. We had all this. This is like prequel cards, and
I don't have boxes of those in a closet somewhere.
But like, you get these cards like these uncommon or these common cards of just like, like just the most random screenshot of something from A New Hope that like nobody cares about. And it's to me, it's like that whole like town and all those people. It's like in that Mandalorian and Book of Boba Fett arc, and here you have like this marshal. It's just like this guy has nothing to do with like the broader Skywalker saga, and he just man, I want that stupid dragon dead, because the kids are trying to go to school, and like and like we're having issues with the Tuscans, and it's just like so provincial.
No, that's another great thing about Star Wars. The old Tales of books used to like Tales of Jabba's Palace, Tales of Mos Eisley used to be great at this. Just taking some random alien in the background and being like, here's their tragic backstory, or like, even, oh my gosh, or what was it?
I've lost his name. Oh my gosh,
Tales from Jabba's Palace, where you learn that there were not one, but something like 10 thermal detonators on that sail barge when it finally blows.
And how like the Gamorreans are like prejudiced against, like people think they're stupid, but they're actually, they have the same level of intelligence as any other sapient race. They just don't speak basic, and people assume they're stupid.
That feels like a Robot Chicken scene waiting to happen, like the Gamorrean guard who's like, like studying for like his law degree.
Oh, at night, that whole story reads like a Robot Chicken episode. Like it really does. But anyway,
they're really mad at the Ithorians because they're seen as wise and everything. You're like, they can't speak basic either.
Right. But it's like, I love how we can just take little characters out of the background and be like I'm sure there's a story behind that weird little alien in the Mandalorian who was selling those melons and gets like the melon juice all over his face, like, I'm sure that guy has a backstory.
My cabbages. Sorry.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But it's just neat that we could have, see this neighborhood evolve from like, okay, total bad neighborhood to, okay, it's turning into something. Progress is being made. In ways it was almost like those comics back in the day, GCPD, that would follow like the Gotham police.
Oh yeah.
And they would have their showing like how they're trying to make, like Batman is off like, doing stuff with the Justice League or like fighting, the big bads and stuff. They're just trying to make their neighborhoods safer. And it's right. Batman can't be everywhere as much as he would like to be. He can't. So like, it was neat to see like this neighborhood sort of change over time. Yeah. So I guess we can move on to the final episode in our little mini trilogy, which is One Good Deed. So we have another time jump. Years pass again, and Cad Bane is released from prison on a technicality, because of course he is. He returns to Duro to exact his revenge on Nero, who is now the Marshal, and raising a boy named Isaac, Bane's son by Aaron. Unwilling to flee, Nero confronts his old friend, revealing that Aaron has since died. Bane kills Nero in front of Isaac, leaving his son behind to continue his life of crime. Now, I know that Dave Filoni did the story treatments for all three of these. And he loves pulling biblical and mythological names. So as soon as this kid was named Isaac, I'm like, I see you, Filoni. I see you.
Yeah.
Although I was kind of expecting Nero to like take him like up a hill.
So was I.
It's not, son, you gotta.
Where is the wood for the sacrifice, father?
It's like wait, like what happened to this episode?
Very like I'm like okay, I can see Colby, I can see Laszlo, but Isaac, really? That's a human name. Like I headcanoned it though. I'm like, okay, like Duro seems to have a significantly large human population too. So I bet you some Duro have just adopted human names. But anyway.
Well, ever since I saw it in Solo when Tobias Beckett, goes up to the middle of nowhere desert bar and says, "I hear you got a good brandy." I'm like, written.
Right.
Like, don't get me wrong. I love this movie. I love, Woody Harrelson. I was like, brandy, like, you gotta, come on. Like make something up.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. like Romulan ale. Just put an alien name in front of it. Yeah.
Right. Just Aqualish ale.
It's like how I still use hanging, and I'm like, really? Okay, sorry. It's such a British thing, like very specifically British.
Yeah.
All right.
Now that just makes me think of the uncle from The Magician's Nephew, Brandy.
He's so good. That is so.
Anyway, but yeah,
that's I think my daughter's favorite, their favorite C.S. Lewis character that they love to hate,
Uncle Andrew,
and hate to
and the laughs we get at the expense of his alcohol.
Yeah, geez, what you couldn't write now.
Dang fine gal.
Right. Yeah. But in any case, we see now the neighborhood that was formerly like a sinkhole, basically, has like beautiful parks, and everybody's kind of, walking around. They've cleaned up the neighborhood, essentially, but things go sideways pretty quickly because Bane is released from prison on a technicality. And I'm like,
Doesn't it feel like a passion play almost for Nero? Like the whole way through,
yes.
It's just like it's
he's gonna die. Yeah,
his Gethsemane and the build up and the last, like this is gonna be his last drink, and he turns it over. And again, there's just so like he kind of knows, he hopes not, but here we go.
I mean, it's such a classic Western trope, having the marshal know. When this train gets here from, Yuma or Deadwood
high
or
noon,
wherever,
right?
Right?
I
know who's on that train. I know what's coming, and it's not going to be good for me. Or they're going to ride in. They told they're going to ride into town at noon. If we don't have the bag of gold out there, then they're going to shoot the town up. And it's
and the councilmen, like the people, like the temptation, like come down off the cross, so to speak. Like, why don't you just kill him now and all that? Like. No,
and they want him to kill him when technically, by the letter of the law, Bane hasn't done anything yet. Right. And it's like he served his time. They let him. They legally let him out of prison, and so just like he says about those other people, because they get the tip from that one guy. He's like, well, so and so's at the spaceport, and he's like, well, so and so did his time. I can't do anything about it.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just realizing that in his deputy leaves, like running away from him
Deputy
in the garden.
Vance leaves.
Yeah.
And that's such a Western name, Deputy Vance. Like, he leaves, he splits. And doesn't he abandon the kid?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm like, what a dirtbag. I get that he was terrified, but I'm like, come on, man. You had a kid to take care of. Anyway.
I did look to see in the post-credits to see if Nero comes back, and... do you love me more than these? I'm just kidding. No, again, two on the nose. Like the forgiveness of the deputy. No, that's not. That's too much. Too much.
But it's funny because we have Isaac. Isaac. Being the son of promise.
Yeah.
And the son who was never supposed to be.
The unexpected.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I like that. I like that Nero won't leave for his own safety. The one councilman that was like, oh, he's a coward. I'm like, well, why don't you go out and do something about it? Then? You're in no position.
Happy, go kill him yourself. I mean,
that's like I love that. You remember that scene in The Dark Knight, like the really cocky businessman. No one wants to get their hands dirty. I'll do it. And he's like holding the detonator, and he's like,
yeah, can't do it.
Just puts it down.
Yeah,
like, no. Like, okay.
Yeah, it's just like it's such a slow motion tragedy because what's going to happen. I was surprised though that Bane didn't he sets it up deliberately to not be a fair fight because he's got those two guys up there as snipers to kind of have all his bases covered, and I'm like, I get that from, but I also thought Bane would just want to do the coup de grace himself and not leave it to anybody else. Like, not that he would do it out of fairness, but that it's got to be me.
Yeah. Well, I think he does because the reality is if you've got two guys in sniper position on the thing, all three of the droids and Nero are dead. There's no winning that. There is not.
Yeah,
I've got the high
yeah.
ground as a real thing in this instance.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that they don't kill Nero, they just kill the droids, and Nero ends up getting them. And as I think Cad told them, don't kill him. He's mine. Like, he sets it up that way. And again, I think you're right. It's not a fairness thing.
No.
He wants, I really think he wants to kill him, and he wants to do it in a duel style, the same way, he killed the last Marshal.
Yeah,
kind of
it's that kind of classic, I need to see your eyes as you die kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But Nero is like an exemplar of like courage and duty in this. He does his duty to protect his town, his neighborhood, even if it kills him. And to protect his surrogate son. And at the end when it's sad too when he mentions that Aaron's off-screen death, and Cad Bane's like, you just said the one thing you shouldn't have said. Not that it would have changed anything. Cad Bane still would have killed him, but then he says later you took everything from me, and Nero's like, not everything. And that's what I was going to get to. That little twitch of Cad Bane's eyes when he's looking at the kid told me he realizes Isaac is his son. In that moment, he realizes.
I wrote down the power of show, don't tell.
Yes, because they didn't have to say anything. Yeah. They let you.
Because as Nero's dying, he's like, "Because he's your son."
That's what I thought they were going to do.
Nope.
That's what I thought they were going to do, but they took the high route and did not do that. They let it. This is a visual medium. You can use the characters' expressions to tell the story. That was just so brilliant. And the mayor who runs out into the middle of the street to protect Isaac is stay away from him. And of course he's going to. He's never coming back.
I assume, my takeaway was I think she knows. I think there's a handful at least of people who know.
No, she knows. Yeah, she knows.
Well, she seems to know at least. Maybe not, others don't, but yeah.
Yeah. And in the end, it's not Nero that took it away from him. It's him, right? He takes it away from himself.
He took it all away, all the family he could have had.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He took it from himself. It's like, you turned her against me. You have done that yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Seems in your anger, you killed her. I mean, sorry.
Your Majesty, are you twirling your mustache? No, I don't have a mustache. Palpatine, that's the reason he's clean shaven.
Yeah.
Otherwise it would be too obvious.
I love those YouTube videos of Palpatine not being a Sith Lord for 10 minutes straight, or with some AI assist. There's all kinds of good. Oh yeah, they're hilarious. He's getting calls and stuff while the Jedi Council's sitting there. He's like, I'll call you back later.
Oh my gosh. But yeah, as an origin story for Cad Bane, this works really well. I mean, other than the goofy thing of him inheriting the hat, we had
to get it somewhere.
Yeah,
I think it would not have been, he goes I want to try that hat on. Nah.
No, yeah.
I don't think he just went and bought it,
Right, yeah. Who is his haberdasher,
Right. What's their story?
No, yeah. Although, if I remember rightly, because Clone Wars is always, the animation in Clone Wars is always a bit more stylized than this. So if I remember, in Clone Wars, he almost has a sombrero sized.
Oh, it's,
Yeah.
Yeah.
This looked more
he goes through a few.
Yeah, this one looks more like the one he had in Book of Boba Fett, where it was a more reasonable sized hat.
Yes.
I think I was just checking it. Yeah, because I believe wasn't the first time. Yeah, Hostage Crisis. So the first time we ever see his character
hostage, right?
Yeah, to free Zero the Hutt.
Oh, that's right.
Right,
Forgot
so it's just
about that guy.
The Truman Capote Hutt, which was that was a bizarre. And they flat out said that's who. It's like that's at least as weird as Peter Lorre. As your it's like, you know what? Let's base a hut on Truman Capote. Okay, we can do whatever we want. But that was. But
you can see why I stopped watching Clone Wars when it was first on
for a little while. But that's the thing is because I don't know. There's nothing. I don't know of anything. Would there be anything in canon between this and that?
I don't think
we jump to he's trying to, ransack and this, taking the Senate hostage. That's pretty high stakes. He becomes a
bounty hunter, instead of being just like a garden variety criminal.
Right. Yeah. Is it a highest bidder, kind of thing? Like if he figures bounty hunting tends to be pretty consistent. I don't know.
Right. Yeah. He's looking for a steady work.
Right, because then in the Book of Boba Fett, of course, it doesn't look like he's doing so much doing bounty hunting. It's now I'm like a hired gun for the syndicate.
He's hired muscle. Yeah,
so
he's got He's got a wide wide applicable skill set.
Yeah.
He can.
If I'm doing my dates right, by the way, I don't know how long Duros live, but it says he's born 60-something BBY.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
and I'm pretty sure isn't Book of Boba Fett like a couple decades after BBY? I mean, he's getting up there,
which is funny because he says to Boba, "You're getting soft in your old age," and I'm like, "Come on, Bane, you're 90
old, 90 years old."
But I think Duros they're aliens; they must age completely different than humans. But
this is I think my third Solo reference tonight. That's like Han. When did you learn to fly? 190 years old?
You look good.
Like Chewie.
Yeah.
You look good. You look good. Oh my gosh. And of course Yoda's, when 900 years old you reach look as good, you will not. That's the best.
Another and this is like a small nerdy thing, but in Legends, the Duro were always evolutionarily related to the Neimoidians. The Neimoidians were an evolutionary break-off species from the Duro. Yeah. That's why they look basically so they have the red eyes.
Like a Romulans and
the Vulcans.
Vulcan kind of thing.
Yeah, so like they had in the early, because the Duro have been spacefaring for a while. And so they settled a lot of planets. And when they settled Cato Neimoidia, they lost contact and they kind of broke off into their own thing. But I
didn't know that. Cool.
So the thing we know about the Neimoidians is that the men wear those towering miters. Right. And I noticed a kind of cultural connection. Some of the male Duros you see walking on the street are wearing tall miters. Yeah, and I'm like, you're kind of referencing that they're...
That was kind of
cool. Those thick robes, some of them. And I'm like, so you're I like when they do that, when they sort of honor a connection that was made in the old lore. And I'm like,
and something that if you hadn't mentioned that, I don't know how many of us necessarily would have known that or had read that or knew that connection.
Because I had the Star Wars Essential Guide to Aliens in the 90s and read it cover to cover 10 times. So.
But it's just proof though that those kinds of those details, right? That they fit for some reason,
and they and even if you don't know why, it's to put that in. So attention to detail.
Who was you said the treatments? I think you said Thomas was
Filoni.
Filoni did the treatments, but who was it? Metzger or not? It was something. I looked it up. The gentleman who wrote did this maybe the actual screenplay for it. I had it here, but then I lost it. But I think he had done some of the other tales of, and I'm gonna keep an eye out for his name on the writing from now on. I can't find it right now, but. I'll get it in a second, but what was it?
Mitch Novets.
That was it. Yeah. What else did he do? I had
Clone Wars, Jedi Fallen Order.
Oh, there it is. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. He's done a bunch. He also wrote for 24. He did a bunch of Bad Batch episodes.
Oh, okay.
You know, so
maybe the one with Cad Bane in it. Who knows?
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
and actually, I was just going to say the two other things I looked up. Nero, Art Butler, who does the voice for Nero, played Captain Akbar in Clone Wars, and the other alum I found was Dawn. Don Gardner, who does the voice of Aaron, also did Steela Guerrera.
Oh, okay.
Solo's sister.
So some returning
So those are some
talent?
Some returning. Yeah, there might have been others, but those are the two I caught.
Nice.
So that's cool.
What do you guys hope they do next for Tales of? Because we've done.
Yeah,
I want Tales of the Rebellion.
Yeah, that'd be good.
We've had Tales of the Empire. You know, maybe Tales of the Smugglers. We need some smuggler love.
Smugglers would be good.
You know, like,
I know there's differences of opinion on this, but like I don't know. I feel like I know there's been this impulse to try to like lay off some of the OG kind of characters and stuff and a lot of this stuff. But to me, it's like they did it a little bit with Rebels sometimes. But I feel like there's just such a beloved connection to some of those those classic characters like Han and Chewie and 3PO and R2 and with the animation, not to say nothing of like where we're going with AI and everything, like you have so much you could, not to overdo it, but like it would, I don't know, like a 3-episode arc, 15 minutes each, right? Of I don't know, I would just enjoy something as simple as like R2 and 3PO, like I don't know,
Tales of the Droids, do it.
Yeah, they get stuck in a closet on Hoth or something. Like,
it could be a send up to the Droids cartoon.
Yep.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
Exactly what I was thinking.
Yeah.
That would be fun.
Wasn't there supposed to be a new droid show?
That's what I heard.
They announced it years ago, back when they announced Bad Batch and a few other things that were in development. But Lucasfilm, they announced a ton of stuff, and then it goes into development.
I love how they announce it with release dates and everything, and then like 6 months to a year later, they were pretending that they never announced it.
I am
like, well, we said it was in development. Like, no, you said it was coming out.
Yeah,
like May 22nd, 2020.
Where's my X-Wing movie?
Yeah, well, where is Rogue Squadron?
Right.
Or I am still all bent out of shape about that, and also what was it?
Rangers of the
New Republic. Yeah, I was like,
one bad tweet, we lost that show. I'm like, oh, come on, grow a backbone.
Yeah, and then you go back to YouTube and you try to find the original announcement, and like, I swear I can't find the YouTube video anymore. Like,
that Star Wars Celebration didn't happen that year.
No, you misremember. Well, now with AI and all this stuff, like they can trick us into thinking it never happened, but who knows? But like the Tales of has so much potential.
It does.
It really does. And I like that they keep it short. It's just enough story to make it really, really compelling. And I think there's a lot of potential in this. If they do Tales of Jabba's Palace, they gotta do the band.
Oh yeah, I mean, look, and I'm not like making light of it or anything. I think it was great, but like but in terms of like characters you'd expect to get a 3-story arc, they did a whole origin story for Morgan Elsbeth, which was cool. But like like there's so many. I mean, you could do it with anybody if you do it with her, so to speak. And again, I love her character, but
so like
like it was not a really super established one.
Like
and
you were saying, Mike,
great,
they can go back to some of the characters who've been around for a while and still give us more, about them,
Well, I can't. Well, and they do seem to put like so they got at the time of this recording, the Maul series, which I'm really excited for, but like clearly that like they want to give that a lot of attention. So it makes me wonder, like, what do they feel like they can afford to not have as a side project? But this clearly isn't like a flagship sort of thing. It's like it moves the story along. So I don't know. I'd love to see other ideas.
I want to see this series continue. I've enjoyed all of them. So but and anything else to say specifically about the Cad Bane arc?
I mean, like so many of these things they put out these days, that was one problem I really had with it. It just wasn't enough. There wasn't enough. It was very skeletal, right?
I see what you mean.
You're just hitting the high points, basically. There's not, and they did a very good job of going as deep as you can go with 15 minutes or 18 minutes or 60 minutes. But it's the same gripe I have with Andor. I want to see the whole year. Why are you showing me like 3 episodes and then why do I have to skip a year? Why can't I just do the whole thing?
Right. It's like, but it's like what they say, short stories are harder than novels. And believe me, they are. I've tried. My short stories turn into novels when they shouldn't.
Yeah.
So, like, you know, like writing short, you know, like...
That's why there's few Ray Bradburys, right?
Oh, my gosh. Yeah, absolutely. I don't know how he did that. But yes, it's like... So, yeah, like it's like... I felt it was good for what it was, but I see what you mean, Pat, that it's like, you know, there's definitely, you know, potential for a lot more. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I just, by the way, I'm cheating a little bit, but I looked on Reddit for a second to see, but somebody mentioned on there, I thought, I didn't think of that. That'd be awesome. Tales of the Sith.
Yes.
With some, like a little, an actual canonical now, like, Plagueis Palpatine arc.
Yeah.
Which, honest to God, if you just get James Lucien, like, you know, how hard is it to lift any part of the Plagueis novel out? You know, and as a treatment, and just make a half hour or whatever, 45 minutes, like 3 episodes.
Yeah,
that kind of gives us some of that. That'd be pretty cool. You know, that's something.
No, yeah, definitely.
I just reread that recently. The audiobook is so good.
Oh, okay, interesting. Yeah. All right, so that's it for this episode of The Secrets of Star Wars. But before we go, we'd like to take a moment to thank our great patrons, including Jonathan S., Ed M., Kevin J., Bridget, and Leo J. Their generous donations help us to create The Secrets of Star Wars and all the shows here at StarQuest, and you can join them at sqpn.com/give. And now we'd like to hear from you, our listeners. What are your thoughts on Tales of the Underworld? You can let us know by sending us an email at starwars@sqpn.com. You can reach us on our social media pages, or you can leave a comment on YouTube or Spotify, or join the conversation on our channel at the StarQuest Discord server, which you can find at sqpn.com/Discord. Until next time, Mike Creavey, thank you for joining us in sharing the secrets of Star Wars.
It's so good to be back. Can't wait to be back again.
And Pat Mason, thank you as well.
You're very welcome. Thanks for having me on.
And once again, I'm Thomas Salerno. Thank you for listening to The Secrets of Star Wars on StarQuest.
Here's another show on the StarQuest Network you're sure to enjoy. The Secrets of Doctor Who. Find the show wherever fine podcasts are found, or at sqpn.com/Doctor Who.